When I mention the words video game music, the image or sound that comes to mind may not be that of epic orchestras recording their music in legendary studios around the world. It may not be that of Grammy-nominated composers or even that of interactive art pieces designed to put musical power into the hands of the players. However, that's exactly what gamers are getting access to today. The very best and brightest composers and musicians right at their fingertips. Now, while all of this may sound great, the Grammy nominations, huge epic orchestras, that's not exactly what motivated me to give you this talk today. Not by a long shot. You see, when I was 3 years old, I played my first video game ever, Mega Man 3. I was so entranced by the gameplay, the difficulty, but most of all, the music. That game's 8-bit soundtrack, which all of you just heard a snippet of, inspired me into making music my full-time career. But not as a rock star or even an orchestral player, but as a composer and sound designer for video games. Today, I have the massive honor of being able to make games for a living. I get to tell stories through sound and through music. Moving people and creating emotional impact is what I get to do, and it couldn't be more thrilling. I'm here to tell you that every single one of you has the capability to create music on a grand scale. All of you have access to virtual orchestras and can become musical geniuses in an instant. Some of you may already be musicians, whereas others may have absolutely hated your music classes in school. Either way, you're invited to the musical revolution that's going on at this very moment. So how do you get in on this? How do you become the maestros of your own worlds? Simply put, all you need to do is play and listen to video games. Video game music is incredibly advanced, massively emotionally resonant, and even has a huge, rabid fan base around the world today. I believe that if Mozart were alive today, he would relish the opportunity not to create music for its own sake, but to share his creations through games. We have a generation of gamers growing up today who are listening to and playing games for hundreds, if not thousands of hours at a time. To put things into perspective, though, imagine if you put your favorite Beatles album on repeat for 1 million days straight. That's exactly what gamers around the world are doing when they're playing and listening to games like World of Warcraft for a cumulative 1 billion hours. Or what if a song was so popular that it was being listened to and remixed throughout the entire world for 30 years straight? That's exactly what's happened to the theme of Super Mario Bros., whose iconic melody is one of the most recognizable pieces of music in the world today. Many of you are probably humming it in your heads right now. Video games are an art form. They're created by people of numerous disciplines, all coming together to create something truly special. There's so much more than lifeless, flat stories with glorified violence. There's a darn good reason, for example, that your kids love to play Minecraft just as much, if not more, than they love to watch TV. Before we go on, however, there's one thing to take note of. Video game music is fundamentally different than that created for any other medium. Game composers are actively working to lose control and put musical power into the hands of the players. Take, for example, Journey, a game that guides its players through the ideas of life, death, and moving forward in the face of insurmountable odds. Journey's score, which was created by Austin Wintory and nominated for a Grammy, even comes to life in the interactivity of the game itself. Instruments shift, change, and dance around one another, depending on your movements, decisions, and actions. So as the music quiets down, the music will not come back up until the player decides to go through this gate and continue on their path. There are also games like Portal 2, created by Valve here in Seattle. Portal 2 features the player running through a series of deadly labyrinths and mazes, all for the joy of a malicious artificial intelligence. When the player completes the game, they're not treated to a simple credit sequence or even given a new weapon, however. An originally composed opera is sung to them instead by the very weapons that try to kill them throughout the entire game. So these orbs you see here were just shooting at you moments ago, and now we're saying goodbye and singing an opera to you. So while you thought your kids were just playing games, turns out they're being exposed to the opera. Games like BioShock Infinite are even exposing old music to new audiences. BioShock Infinite relies heavily on a licensed soundtrack which pulls music all the way from the 30s to the 70s as a key storytelling device, but it becomes truly unique because it uses Christian hymns as the center of its plot.
Guitar. Will the circle be unbroken by and by?
When it comes to music creation, however, games like Centris have you covered. Centris, created by local game developer Samantha Coleman, allows musicians and non-musicians alike to create music completely from scratch using nothing more than musical puzzle pieces. So the player has their choice of these different colored musical puzzle pieces, all representing different instruments and different notes. The order in which you insert them changes the sound of your music that you're creating, all the while solving a musical puzzle. However, some of the most complex music is living right on your phones. Games like Peggle 2, created by PopCap Games here in Seattle, feature a live orchestra and choir. The score, created by Guy Whitmore, was recorded in small musical snippets. These musical snippets are then rearranged by the game on the fly to give you a unique musical experience every single time you play. Now, remember what I said earlier about the best and brightest musicians making music for video games? Well, none other than Sir Paul McCartney himself worked on the music for the game Destiny, that guy in that picture that I showed you earlier from the Beatles. He co-composed the soundtrack with Marty O'Donnell, Michael Salvatore, and C. Paul Johnson over at Bungie. The end result is a massive, epic orchestral score that won numerous awards for its incredible vibrancy and emotional impact. This level of engagement, from the players all the way to the pros, means that young people are interested in going to orchestral concerts again. And not because Brahms is getting a much-deserved revival, but because orchestras around the world are playing music from popular games such as The Legend of Zelda and Pokemon, including our very own Seattle Symphony here at Benaroya Hall. These concerts, which regularly sell out completely, even feature audience members dressing up as their favorite video game characters to show their support in the audience. Video games are offering us music that is in a way that has never been given to us before. Typically, we've had music that sounds the same every single time we play it back. But now, thanks to the advent of video game music, we have music that plays with you instead of just at you. So next time you play a video game, remember that you have the power of music at your fingertips. All of you have the capability to become a musical genius in an instant and to become the maestros of your own worlds. Thank you. Thank you.